I'm Thomas from Meaningful Gigs, and welcome back to Heroes of the Creative Revolution. In this episode, design ops and strategy expert Zoe Seaman shares why transparency is so important in design ops work. She also talks about how to identify where design ops can have the biggest impact and how to effectively communicate that impact to the rest of an org or other teams. Let's dive in. Hi, Zoe. Thanks for joining us today. Let's just start off by getting a little bit of background into you and your work.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. Pleased to be here. My name's Zoe Seaman. I'm based in Derby in the Midlands in the UK, and I've been working in design ops for the last 8 years in a few different companies here in the UK.
Gotcha. And I'm curious, how did you first get into design ops and design in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I was working at Capital One credit cards in the UK. So it's a credit card business, and we were going through digital transformation where we were trying to build our first digital product with product tech and engineering. So we were building our mobile app, and that was a success, and the company really pleased with how that digital transformation, the first kind of path into there had gone. And so the investment was then made to bring in many more designers and product people and engineering. And we had a design director join us from eBay, a lady called Aileen Beck, who had been running the design team at eBay and in Europe, and had a design producer role in that team. And that design producer role was very much about enabling the design teams to be able to focus on their craft and doing great design work, and not necessarily getting caught up in some of the more operational, process-driven elements of having design in-house in large organizations.
So what exactly does design transparency look like, and how have you been able to implement it into your roles?
Yeah, so for me, the nature of design ops work means that it's often hidden, it's often behind the scenes, it's about orchestrating how we make things work better for the teams that we're in. And as I said, that the first role that I had was called a design producer, and before the phrase design operations was the kind of shared collective noun for the work that we do, that design producer title was a bit more common, and I think that's a real accurate way of describing it, because like a film producer oversees the movie making process, the same can be said for design ops and how we work with designers, and how we enable our teams, and we create those foundations to embed design at whatever scale or size your company needs. But like I say, a lot of what we do can go unseen unless you shout about it. I've heard it described as design ops being the swans that kind of like moving across the surface very calmly, but underneath their feet are moving really fast because they've got loads of stuff going on. I heard many people describe it as spinning plates, and you've got lots of things going on at once, and sometimes you're so focused on getting that work done that actually being transparent about the impact that you're having or about the work that's going on might not be front of mind. And that's why for me it's really important to think about this like mindfully when going into work, and the various ways that you can do this. So whether it's about being open with the design ops backlog that you have, making sure it's really visible what's happening within the team, whether it's using frameworks like you said we did as part of communication, particularly when it comes to how design ops may be working with employee feedback on how things could work better. Being very open in comms channels, in Slack updates, in all hands updates, having a real open door to the world of design ops for people. Any comms channel is great, as long as you can do good storytelling about what things were like before design ops might have been involved in something, and then how design ops have enabled the team to where they've got to now. That's the great story that you want to tell about design ops. And it's not just within design because often design ops will partner with other places around the business. So finance, HR, procurement, they're some of the teams that design ops connect into. And they're the ones where sharing the story as a partnership out into those places as well is really important. It's not just about shouting about it in your own space and design, it's about really helping others to see that design ops is a real vital part of having an in-house design practice.
How have you effectively shown design ops impact on the business in the different organizations you've worked in?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, design ops impact, because measuring what we do in second line type roles like this is harder than if you're front line, you're directly impacting sales conversion or whatever success metric you have in your organization to determine value, monetary value, KPIs. Design ops is a step removed from there. So when I first started, as I say, at Capital One, when the decision had been made to conduct this digital transformation across the business and to increase design numbers, one of the things there was onboarding and how we can bring people into the organisation and really have them their speed to kind of have impact and drive productivity be as quick as we could, and also for people to feel engaged and empowered from day one. So we had nothing in place relating to design onboarding. We had a company onboarding program that people joined. So that was an easy one for me to show impact, because it's like, okay, let me ask the people who've recently joined who haven't had any design specific onboarding, how effective was that for you? How quickly could you get up to speed? How did you feel about joining the company? I had those numbers and metrics there and an overall rating to then enhance that design specific onboarding, how we brought people in to work with us, and could easily show there that there's an impact there that we've had in how we've made that better for people. And the other way that I've done it is in the past is looking at a time-based metric for showing impact. So in research ops, when I had didn't have a research operations person in place, it was a lot of research ops type work, so budget management, procurement activities, those types of things were being done by user researchers, because we still needed that work to happen. And so I could look at how much time user researchers were spending on actual research activities and how much research we were able to do versus how much operations admin type tasks were they spending their time on. And the same we had a team who were looking after our creative marketing, so our email campaigns, our outbound or inbound activity that was happening. They would take work in from around the business and there would be an output from that. And we had a lot of designers who were spending a lot of time going around in circles on the intake process, because we had stakeholders who weren't necessarily clear on what they wanted, and there was a lot of backwards and forwards, and again a lot of time being spent not doing actual design work. So that's where I could see that our design and research people weren't making the most of their skill set. We weren't really utilising their craft, because they were knee deep in this ops related work. So you've got a time metric there, and then you've got a job satisfaction, role satisfaction metric, and so ops can come in and we made changes. So I successfully got a research ops manager in place, and we've got a studio ops manager, and by creating a different way of working, we were able to unlock the time for these people to really focus on their craft and not be focused on operations. And that had a big impact on the business, because it was the time and the value that we could get from these really highly talented people, but also making sure that we were doing things efficiently and effectively in how we operated.
So how do you normally identify where ops should prioritize their time to have the biggest impact?
Yeah, so there's two sides to this. I think there's the people side, the most important side, and that is through listening to our people. DesignOps are here to enable design teams to deliver value and deliver customer and business success, and what's needed in one company isn't the same at the next company. And I've been doing DesignOps in a few different places. I'm currently at a large retailer in the UK, company called Asda, and I've joined there quite recently, and the best way for me to go into a company and start looking at DesignOps for the first time is to really listen to what's working well right now, what's not working, and what could we be doing differently. And that tells me where DesignOps can have the biggest impact. We're doing it based on research. We're practicing what we preach. We're getting insight. I will then pull out the themes, prioritize based on impact and effort, and that's where I focus my efforts to deliver. Really making sure that we're getting to the things that our people are telling us are causing them the most pain. I think the other part of it though is the process part. So identifying in the ways that we work where we could be doing things better, either in processes that we own ourselves and operate within our team only in our team, or whether it's where we partner with people. So an example could be the way that we do our supply management and the way that we operate with our partners to carry out like processes for payments and everything else. Could be working ineffectively, it could be taking a lot of time, it could be causing pain for people. So finding those parts of the process where things aren't working as well as they could and trying to unlock that as well.
So in your workflow, do you use any tools, processes, frameworks that you feel you can't live without?
Yeah. So it varies depending on the situation in the company, but certainly a consistent method that I've used recently when joining an organisation or starting out with a new team, or even when we're wanting to kind of just get an ear to the ground as to what's happening, is doing that listening tour, which is taken from Michael Watkins' First 90 Days book. So that's where you can really focus your attention on hearing from people, what's already working in the team, what's not working. Like I mentioned before, like how I look for where we can have the biggest impact. It's really doing that, listening out for people and to understand. I think outside of that, there's ops people are planners. We're highly organised by nature. I would say that's probably a common trait. So there's various tools that you can use to plan your work. In companies that I've worked in most recently, Jira has been the tool for product development. And what I found is actually having a DesignOps board in the same space and being able to report in the same way on the work that happens is a positive thing. Or alternatively, using other Kanban type tools like Trello or Microsoft Planner. They can also help to visualize the backlog and keeping track of projects. And I mentioned at the start, keeping these spaces open means that people can see the work that's happening. But other tools, quite often I've found process mapping tools. So historically, like way back, was just probably Visio, but now you've got things like Mural and FigJam that can be used to do that. But it's really helpful to map out those processes, particularly when you're looking for ways to make them better, how to make them shorter, closing any gaps. It's a really great starting point to have that. I did this with our research ops manager, and we, mapping out those processes can really help find where things can work more efficiently. I think we reduced our research study process by about 30% just by visually seeing, okay, right, these are all of the steps that we've got to go through. So yeah, they're the biggest ones that I tend to use.
Thinking throughout your career, what's the biggest DesignOps challenge you faced?
The challenge of expanding beyond DesignOps team of 1 or 2. So how to build that business case for extra heads and the return on investment that they'll achieve. I've had that challenge a few times, and it does go all the way back around to being fully transparent with the work that DesignOps does, having those clear metrics of what will be impacted by having DesignOps people in the team. So I've seen that, I've had those challenges, and I've kind of had to put those cases forward, and thankfully successfully been able to expand the 2 DesignOps teams I've worked in before this one, been able to expand those to, for the better of the whole design community.
So with your perspective now, what's your advice to your younger self just starting off in DesignOps, or someone else entering the field now? So
I think looking back to where I was when I started, it was very early days for DesignOps. It was, there wasn't a lot out there to kind of like read and look at and understand. But thankfully, we did have like the DesignOps handbook, which was written by a few great people in the DesignOps space. We had some things, or I had things that were out there that I could look to. But I guess I would say to my younger self, like, don't necessarily think everyone else is doing it loads better, and to find the people who can help you figure out what it looks like for yourself. I had a very forward-thinking design director, like I say, who joined from eBay, who saw the value of DesignOps and knew what it would unlock for us to operate in that company, highly regulated space, and what that needed from a process operational overview. I'd also be banging the drum of over communicate at all times and being fully transparent, like the theme of what we've been talking about a bit here, because I've seen it multiple times where it's not clear to everyone looking in, like necessarily where DesignOps space is and what the purpose is within the team in comparison to designers who are frontline doing product design, content design, whatever it might be. So yeah, really be fully transparent with the work, what you're working on, the progress that you're making, the impact that you're having, measuring up front what it is that you're going to change, and reporting back on those metrics. It goes alongside being transparent. I think it also just makes sure that you're focusing in the right place, because you could, if you asked a team of designers like what's not working, what could be working better, chances are you'll get quite a long list of things there, and you could try and go after many, but really focusing on the ones that are going to have the biggest impact, the ones that are going to really change how things work, and be comfortable knowing that there might be a long tail of other things that you could be doing, but you can't get to everything, particularly if you're in a small DesignOps space.
So what's the most fun you've had within design operations in your roles?
Irrespective of role, I guess I enjoy connecting with the teams that I work with. I enjoy building those strong connections from working together with people and solving problems, and removing blockers whilst having a good time in the process. I do think that making time for team activities and to get to know one another is vital to build those team connections, and I do think that it's becoming hard. I'm seeing that becoming harder to do in a hybrid world. I hope, having worked in ops for quite some time, and that team engagement, the team togetherness is to me something that ops has a part in kind of playing to make sure that that's well developed and people feel like they've got those connections. It's harder to do that with people not necessarily being together all the time, or being able to connect virtually. What does that look like for everybody? So yeah, I'm enjoying kind of trying to build on that in my role here and with the team that I've got.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today, Zoe. It really was a pleasure to have you. Love the conversation. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention or plug while you're on?
No, I think the DesignOps community is one that I'm very grateful to be a part of. I think, like I said, way back when I started in it, not really knowing where to operate or how to, not even knowing that there was a community out there for a while, and kind of figuring out how to do this by myself was a bit daunting. But then realising, I think I mentioned the DesignOps Summit conference. I went to the first one of those. I was very lucky to go to that in New York, and meeting the people that I did out there gave me that inspiration to know, like, there's lots of people across the world who are all trying to figure out how we do this. And it just continued. The DesignOps Assembly, I mentioned that as well. That's a great community for people to be part of if they're interested in design ops. There's communities, all like it's collectively under the DesignOps Assembly, but there's groups across the world who meet up just to share stories and things. So yeah, if people are interested in design ops, then I would definitely take that as a starting point to find out a bit more.